Yes, guys, welcome back to another live. Welcome back to another episode of the BlueBalls podcast. Of course, you lot were expecting Jay to be here, but things change very quickly, as you lot can tell in the footballing world, especially the way this season's been. Things change quick and fast, so Jay couldn't make it here today. Big up, Jay, anyway. Check out the back post if you guys haven't done so already. But that means you guys are stuck with me again for another live. Sorry, not sorry. It is what it is. But I've also come and I brought the best panel for you guys as per usual. We've got that Chelsea pod who's back again for another episode of the Blue Balls podcast. How's your week been, bro?
Yeah, it was all right, I guess, apart from, was it Tuesday night we played Leicester now? Yeah, it was all right apart from that, I suppose, mate. How about yourself?
Yeah, it has been. If you look at it from a footballing sense, it's been a bit of a dread week. But the week's been good outside of the sport because, like, if you only look at the sport, it's absolutely dreadful. Vitmus, my guy, man, how you say? What you saying, man? How you been?
Yeah, I've been okay, but not on the football side, But I still have enough strength, to fight through to the season, end of the season. Hoping
Yeah,
it don't run out before.
Yeah, we are going to need all the help and all the prayers that we need. We're going to delve into the Leicester-Chelsea game, the big Frank Lampard debate. We're going to talk about the players, the system, the manager, the tactics, everything. And we're also going to take your questions in as well. So if you guys have any questions, leave it down in the comment section below. But before we start, as per usual, if you guys haven't done so already, please check out the OneFootball app. The new link is down in the description below. All the latest news, all the latest transfer news and rumors that you guys may see on Sky Sports News or on Twitter or popping on the timeline, check it out on the OneFootball app, because if the OneFootball app isn't reporting on it, the fact is then it's probably not that true. It also come clean with a fresh new transfer indicator as well, because we know what the month of January is going to be like. It's just going to be filled with BS rumors and a lot more rumors coming out than facts, because we're into the 21st of January and there's still been barely any transfers made in the Premier League. So if you hear about any deadline day transfers and you're not too sure about the legitimacy of it, check out the OneFootball app, check out their transfer indicator, and they will be the first to let you know whether to really, really invest in this transfer or to just ignore it and to not let your hopes get too high up about it. But check out the OneFootball app. The link is down in the description below. Big up Wayne as well with another super chat. Big up yourself, man. You're on more of these live streams than I am, but I really appreciate the work rate. Dan says, yes, legend on. Big it up, guys. Big up yourself, man. Let's start with Leicester versus Chelsea. And I haven't spoken. Actually, no, first off, I do need to get your name. What's your name, bro?
Nick, man. I know.
Nick. All right, cool. Because I haven't got your name before. But Nick, chat to me about the last week at Chelsea. It's another week, another dreadful performance, but sadly we weren't able to salvage 3 points out of it. And more pressure is heaping on Frank Lampard's head. What did you make of the Leicester City game, first of all?
Yeah, it's sort of, I guess after Fulham then was a bit of optimism. And then it sort of feels like a case of one step forward, two steps back, really. Leicester was dreadful. I don't really think there's any other way to describe it. To be honest, it was amateur, quite a lot of it. I think you look at the 2 goals we conceded, and if you wanted an indicator of how we've defended in the Frank Lampard era so far, look no further than the 2 goals we conceded. It was poor, man. I mean, when the lineup came out and I saw the midfield, I was worried about that midfield. I thought it was a bit lightweight. I thought we'd have issues, and yeah, we did. But it was just grim, man. And as soon as Leicester went 1-0 up, I feared the worst. And yeah, unfortunately, it was proven right.
Yeah, I mean, the worst part was that we conceded so early into the game. 6 minutes in, and we put ourselves under that much pressure against a team above us that we know what the agenda's been with us this season. We can't beat the teams that are above us. We've only beaten West Ham, and West Ham was a bit of a false image in itself. How hard do you think it was for us to try and get a comeback from 1-0 down? I don't want to say the game in general, but from 6 minutes in, 1-0 down, what do you think we could have done differently to try and get a result?
Well, I guess the issue was that as soon as we actually started growing into the game, it took us a while, but I think, we had a decent little spell in the first half when I think we thought we won that penalty, and then it turns out to be a free kick. But it's just margins really sort of going against us. But if that doesn't get given, it gets overturned, and then about a minute or two later, Leicester are down the other end and doubling their lead. It was just slow and lethargic, and I know Frank talked afterwards about the basics. It was just so slow. This Chelsea team, since Leeds, really has been unrecognisable from what we've seen before under Frank. It's honestly, it's Ainsley Davis is a massive Frank support, but it's a tough watch at the moment. It really is. You struggle to see where at the moment it's going to get better.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, and you said it perfectly about our range of passing. Big up Zane in the chat as well, saying you'll be above us soon. The way we're playing, we probably will be. But based on what you were saying about the passing, like that was a really big point because this isn't just a Leicester game, but this is so many other games where I see it, where I see other players making runs and they just get absolutely ignored, and we go for the safe pass to whoever's just nearest to us. Which also makes it easier for other teams to mark us because they can leave those spaces exposed for us because we don't ever make him pay for it. There's times where I rarely saw a long ball over the top to Tammy Abraham, but whenever I did, it took so long for the ball to even reach him that by the time he even takes it down, there's 2 or 3 players swarming him, and it's just very easy for them to just deal with him. Vitmus, I'm going to turn to you as well. Leicester 2, Chelsea 0. What were your thoughts? And did you think it was the manager that cost us, or do you think it was more the players and individual errors that cost us this game?
Well, a little bit of both, to be honest. I think the manager's selection was mostly in the midfield and somewhat at the defense, because I don't know what happened to Kurt Zuma. I mean, I like Rudiger to play with Thiago Silva, but that would be before the start of the season. But so far, Zuma has been so good, and I was disappointed not to see Zuma pairing with Thiago Silva in that game. And I think you have to blame the players a bit, but I think the most of the blame the manager has to take it. The poor game management, and it's just speaking for us. I mean, I don't think we could have done anything to come back in that game entirely, like the way how we're playing. I mean, just as with as Madison have said it in his after the game chat with the whatever, I mean the TV personnel, the way they're playing, the love that they have for each other, and the way they're playing, that connection that Leicester have, Chelsea are lacking it. And Frank said it as well, that we don't have that, but I think that's based upon him as well. So I don't think we would have come back in that game at all, because we weren't playing like we wanted to play at all. The team was just flat in every area.
That's the thing, and this raises another concern that we haven't even spoke about, because we've spoken about how it could be a system failure, it could be an issue with the manager or some of the players. Do you think it's more of a mental issue and it's more of a confidence problem in some of these players? Because it does look like they're scared to take risk. It looks like they're scared to try and do anything incisive, or they're scared to unlock the creativity that I know some of these players have within them. So do you think it's more of an issue of confidence for some of these players? It's just too many results getting off their head because they know they need to start delivering results right now?
Of course, it has to be confidence. And I think the manager has not really been giving them, that in the past, maybe since the Everton. I think when we lost to Everton, I think we played well, but we just were unlucky to score. And I think after that game, I think the comments that he might have gave the players in the dressing room or after the game, I think that might have been the reason why we started to dip in form. I think he was just angry that we lost to Everton and broke that unbeaten run of games we were on. I think he said something that he shouldn't have said, and it has taken a toll on the team. So I think it's just Lampard, like, he's not treating the players well in terms of, the way you talk to people. I mean, we're all human beings, so I think you have to talk to people with a little bit of respect, despite they are, you get me, playing maybe not up to the standard that they were. But the respect, bro. Lampard, from a Lampard perspective, coaching Chelsea, he should have already known that player power stands at the club. So once you overtake your boundary with the players, it might cost you your job. So, and he did it when he was. Huh?
Yeah, that's a good example as well, Villas-Boas. But when we speak about player power, do you really think player power is that prevalent in the squad right now? Because I'd get it when it was the old guard who are still around, like your John Terrys, your Lampards, your Didier Drogba's, players who are around that sort of system and that sort of area, that sort of era around Chelsea. But it looks like a completely different team from now. There was back in the Conte and Sarri times where there was issues with like the Brazilian players. Like we know Conte fell out with Willian, fell out with David Luiz, but If we're to say player power, because this is a very new squad in terms of the youth players and the new players that we signed, but who'd really be in control of that then in that case?
All right, when I say player for, I don't necessarily mean like they're trying to get him sacked, but meaning like they're like they're young guys. They have their each other's numbers. They have their WhatsApps or whatever they use to communicate. And if we three are here and we're like, I'll be messaging you like, Lewis, F Lampard, man, he's not doing a good job. And my guy Nick will be saying, yeah, man, I agree with you. And that goes on to the field, and they're just playing and getting paid, but they're not enjoying the football. So they're just on the field because it's in their contract. So they're not really playing for Lampard. They're just there.
So it's not just outright ignorance of Lampard. It's just more, if they don't rate him, they're not going to put 100% in for him. That's what you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay, I can understand that. Nick, do you echo his thoughts?
This is the thing that's perhaps most startling for me, is that how in the space of just over a month, it's got to this. It's not like we've been really, really poor the whole season and never got going. We had that unbeaten run and things were looking good. So the fact that from the space of 10 games or something, we slipped from first to 8th in the league, that's pretty damning. It also doesn't help that Chilwell, ever since Chilwell made those comments about us feeling unbeatable, we've basically lost every game. But I think you look at this team, and it's a common pattern that as soon as, I don't know, we fall out of title race, we drop drastically. If you look at what happened under Conte, what happened under Sarri, especially Sarri, we started that season off well and then just dropped so quickly and sort of needed to, save ourselves at the end, really. I do think there's a big mentality issue at Chelsea. I also think you've got young players and you've got talented players, but you've got young players that haven't won anything yet. It's going to take time. Frank's biggest challenge, really, is not only just managing squad, he's got to build a culture at Chelsea. And he's got to try and build that winning culture. But when he's an inexperienced manager, that's also not easy for him, because players are probably not going to trust him as much as they would other managers, because he's inexperienced and learning on the job.
But isn't that the biggest issue in itself as well? And that's also why it's really hard to judge what Frank Lampard can do. Like, I'll take it back to Maurizio Sarri, and there were times in that season where it was absolutely dreadful watching the football. And this has come from someone who was Sarri into the death. But the difference with Maurizio Sarri and Frank Lampard is I can look at Sarri's previous spells at other clubs, and I can sit here and see a similar pattern in the way he manages. It's the same thing with Antonio Conte, his issues with the board. Same thing happened with other clubs. Sarri, I know first season, it's not going to be pretty football for the most part. You'll see glimpses of Sarri ball, but that's it. The second season is really and truly where it really gets deep into your head. We didn't get to see that second season with Maurizio Sarri, and again with the season with Frank Lampard, I'm happy with it, because that first season with Frank Lampard, everything went to plan. Summer transfer window as well, with that, everything went to plan. You can tell Frank Lampard's first season from the first season as Derby as well. Derby took him from 6th to 6th in a cup final, playoff final, but still a final. Chelsea, 3rd to 4th, goal difference, nobody cares, and a cup final. Now, I can't really tell Frank Lampard's second season because he has never had a second season of experience, which is why now it is him working, learning behind the job, which is why this is the main thing for anyone who's Frank Lampard out at this point, because it's like, we're Chelsea. I love Frank Lampard. Like, separate the manager from the player, because the player, everyone respects him. Lampard in, Lampard out, you can respect him. This guy, though, as a manager, I don't really know where I can back him, because I want to, and I think that's the same for a lot of people who are Lampard out. They would be Lampard in if they could see something that they could get behind. Right now, we're at a period where it's just, I don't know where Lampard can change things. I don't know where he can improve on, because same way, if I could think that, he would have already done that as well. We've been bad for about 6 to 8 weeks now with barely any change except 2 victories, not even counting the Morecambe game, but 2 victories that look like false images. So with that in mind, what do you think Lampard can change? And do you even think he'll have the time to change things?
What can Frank change? I think the thing that startled me, I'm going back to Fulham, was you saw all of a sudden Rudiger, Jorginho, etc., brought back in players that aren't really in his plans.
No.
Like, he's going that sort of argument, bring the leaders back in. It's sort of going against sort of everything Frank's done in his reign so far in terms of trusting the young players. I had a lot of faith that Frank would start Callum against Fulham, and I was wrong there. I think what's he got to do? I think he's got to just have more faith in these sort of younger players that did so well for him last season. I think when you make 6 new signings as well, that's more than half the starting 11. So in a way, as much as last season's work was brilliant, he's almost ripped it up in a sense. That he's got 60 players, and it's going to take time. But I think what can Frank do? Well, for starters, I think to try and give someone like Callum a run of games. He's never had a run of games in Chelsea. He's one of the bright spots in this Chelsea team, apart from I don't think he's great.
Do you say give Werner a swap?
I said give Callum a run, and then say Hammy now probably deserves. Again, I don't think he was great against Leicester, but try and give him basically just try and have more faith and give more chances to players that did such a good job for him last season. I think that would help, because I think when you're relying on people like Rudiger, and I don't think Rudiger is necessarily put a foot wrong this season. Maybe it wasn't great against Leicester, and then players like Jorginho, who are they out the door, are they not? I don't think there's really much to gain from that. And again, I think Billy Gilmour has been pretty unlucky not to feature at all in these last 2 games. So we saw Arsenal and Arteta throwing some of the kids against us, and their games since, it seems to have like. You just got to be not. It's hard to say what he needs to do, but I think having more faith in the squad from last year would help. But also, I think just got to try and mix up a bit, because anyone can tell you what Chelsea are going to do every game right now. And I watched Chelsea and I struggled to see where we're going to score. The first time under Frank, I remember watching us thinking, I don't see where we're scoring today. I think back to last year, I always felt we had a goal in us and could score, even if we weren't playing great. And that's quite damning that with all this talent he's got on the pitch, compared to last year, that we're sort of in this state. But yeah, I think it's a tough one really, but Frank's got to try and be probably also more proactive on the touchline. He seems awfully quiet, and it's something a lot of people are now picking up on. So I think there's a lot more he can do, but I think he just got to try and be braver.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and you said that a lot of people are starting to notice his figure, and he's got the look of someone who's running out of ideas. And the thing is, I can see him trying ideas, but same way, it's not the ideas that I rate. A lot of people are speaking about this already. Vitmus, we've already spoke about this, so I'll come to you second for this. But the one change I have seen is that he's changed the back 2 from Thiago Silva and Zuma to Thiago Silva and Antonio Rudiger. Really and truly, we didn't really need to change our back 5. I think our back 5 was one of the few things that we were happy with what Frank Lampard was doing, because our biggest issues with last season was that we continuously changed our back 5. I think we had 21 or 22 different back 5 formations in Lampard's first 41 games, or something similar to that. And that was a huge reason for why we kept conceding goals, or why we kept looking so shaky at the back, because we never had a set back 4. And we did now, and we have one that worked perfectly. I don't care about the bad form or anything. The back 5 is fine, and that's a perfect back 5. We didn't need to change it. Now we're changing it with Antonio Rudiger, and I don't understand why. This isn't just me trying to randomly slay Antonio Rudiger, because I think he's a great squad player. Same with Andreas Christensen. Both are great squad players, but good players that you can bring on if there's an injury to one or the other, if you want to rotate. To start, though, no, I wouldn't back that. I think Zuma and Thiago Silva complement each other's styles of play perfectly, and better than any other back 2 partnership could. And it's not one that we needed to change. What's your thoughts, Nick?
Yeah, no, I don't think we needed to change. And I think Zuma was sort of unlucky. But I mean, as I said, I think up to Leicester, I don't think Rudy had really put a foot wrong. So when I looked at the change of line, although I wasn't necessarily a fan of it, I wasn't, perhaps as negative or against it, because I think this season when Rudy stepped in, up till Leicester, he'd not put a foot wrong and had been solid. But again, if you're building a team, you need settled partnerships. And, Silva and Zuma had been, on the whole, pretty good for us. So, yeah, I think Frank needs to try and sort of go back to having a settled lineup. But again, I sort of think, Frank's just almost trying to try everything now, because he doesn't necessarily know what to do.
Exactly that. Vitmus as well, I want to get your thoughts on Rudiger versus Zuma. And I also want to talk to you about another player who has got a bit of undeserved stick. Well, kind of deserved based on form, but in terms of his ability, undeserved as well. Mateo Kovacic, he's tried playing him as a lone DM in the Leicester City game. Didn't work in some extent, but I also respect the energy. I do think he was really trying to create things and make things happen. For the most part, I still didn't see a lot of progressive passes in him. Most of it was more like just continuing to keep possession. It was the same sort of thing that we saw from Jorginho in the match against Fulham. What do you think about the Rudiger Zuma formation, and what do you also think about Mateo Kovacic over the last few games? Do you feel like he's been utilised in the wrong way, or do you think he's been in bad form himself?
Well, when we start first with the Zuma and Rudiger, honestly, as I said, I don't know what. Maybe Zuma said something to Frank Lampard that pissed him off or something, because Zuma, I think he played in the Morecambe game, and then after that he missed Fulham and now he missed Leicester, which we thought that he was just resting Zuma in the Fulham game to have him for Leicester. So
yeah, that was fine.
Yeah, for me, I wouldn't, as much as though I like Rudiger, I would have never played Rudiger over Zuma in that Leicester City game when we need physicality at the back, where Zuma has been that physical player first. I mean, he made one or a few mistakes, but I mean in the past, but I mean we were 17 games or like 14 games without a loss. So why would you go from actually, as you said, changing something that was working fine when we had a dip of form, but come on, keep the team together. And as Nick said, we need to continue building the partnership, which Zuma and Thiago Silva already built that partnership. So that's why we have to blame Frank, because he's breaking something apart that was perfectly fine. When we had Zuma and Thiago Silva, we were conceding 1 goal a game or none. And in, I mean, Fulham game, yeah, we didn't concede, but we won 1-0. But when you think about it, Fulham really didn't give us that threat, apart from a one chance where Cavallero, or what his name, got and he didn't score. And with Kovacic, as in, you know, I'm a fan of Kovacic, but I think he has dipped in form. But we could say that about many of the other players in the squad who have dipped in form too. Because I think Kovacic, at the start of the season, he was brilliant, and I kept defending him that he's one of the best players we have in midfield. Kovacic was very good in the first 7 or 8 games, and we won like 3 games in a row. I think we beat Sheffield and Burnley and them guys, and Kovacic was brilliant.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah. And then he was benched in the other 2 games and came on like 10 minutes in those games or none. So I have to blame Frank, because if I was a manager and I have my midfield playing very well, I wouldn't be changing them unless they are injured or I'm doing something tactically to rest 1 or 2 of them for a game that's coming up, which we didn't. He just stopped playing the players that were good.
All right, Alex, do you want to add anything to Rudiger Zuma debate or the Kovacic debate?
With regards to the whole Rudiger Zuma thing, yeah, I was a bit confused as to why Zuma was just suddenly frozen out since the Fulham game, but because that's one area, you know, whether you're Frank in or out, that's one thing you could say for the large part of this season, that the one thing he's kept and, you know, knows what he's doing is with the back 5. And you know, obviously he's changed the midfield up, and I was reading the other week that he's played with 11 or more different trios in the front 3 positions. So when you think about that with regards to the defence, that's the one area of the pitch really where we thought we had it covered, and that's where we could build on from. But now he's changing that up, and you know, he did that a bit last season as well. It wasn't as costly because we ended up in 4th. But you think about how from about September all the way till to the start of January, Tamori was starting week in, week out. And then suddenly he was just frozen out. And, you know, it's just a case of players moving up and down the pecking order. I really don't understand it. I mean, Tamori's gone from what? 2nd choice to, you know, to like 5th choice within, it's less than a year actually, probably about 9 or 10 months.
Months.
Exactly, but this is what I'm saying. Which shows that he, you know, when it comes to man management, you know, he has shown himself to be a bit inept. and I wouldn't be surprised if he falls out with a couple of the players. I mean, that's the only reasonable explanation as to why Tamori probably just got frozen out, because when he played, he didn't really put a foot wrong, to be honest with you. And I wouldn't be surprised if the same thing happened with like Callum, for instance, or I think even Tammy Abraham's can stake a claim to be saying, well, why aren't I starting? I don't particularly rate Tammy, but he is our top scorer in the league this season, and I would say for the most part, when he has been given a chance, he has scored goals, and he's tried, and that's hard when you keep rotating players. It's like we were saying last week, Mount's probably the only player who's guaranteed to play the next game if he does well. And even if he doesn't do well, he'll probably still start. You can't really say that about any other player in the squad, really, can you?
And that's the thing as well, because we were speaking about the reports after the Arsenal game a few weeks ago, where we were saying he was falling out with fringe members of the squad. Now it's getting to a point, like, with all these weird rotations, who's even counting as fringe players in the squad? And if that's the case anyway, he's already lost half of the dressing room as a result, because he rotates, but he don't rotate enough. And there's still a certain amount of players who aren't even in his line of players that he would rotate for. Players like Billy Gilmore, who we barely see play games. Kepa, barely see him play games except the odd cup match. Fikayo Tomori is an example as well. Like, he's already starting to lose players within the squad, and with the way that we played for the Leicester City match, because I've already said plenty of times on all my streams, Chelsea players would have known how important that game was to Frank Lampard. They would have known about the amount of pressure that he had going into that game. And they played like it was a pre-season match. I didn't see any level of intensity in that game from those players, other than maybe Hudson-Odoi, Mendy for keeping the score decent. Mateo Kovacic, I thought, was decent. Kai Havertz in some phases was decent. Other than that, like, it was just terrible all round. So it does look like he's low-key starting to lose the team. I don't want to go there and start throwing rumours for the sake of it, but if you go off what you see, those players don't really look like they're fully playing for him. I'm not going to say they've completely stopped, but I don't see the same level of motivation that I saw at the start of this season or last season.
Exactly.
But there's no real reason as to why that should be, Lewis. When you think about, I know Werner didn't start the game the other day, and he hasn't started in the last couple of games, right? But with him, yeah, people are saying it's a confidence issue. When you consider the amount of chances Lampard's actually given him, despite him missing chances, chance after chance, week in, week out, if I was Werner, I'd owe that guy my life in terms of how much backing he's actually put into me. Whether Werner's the right player for his system or style of play is a different question. I don't think he is, but that's a different question entirely. You look at the defense, yeah. To me, there's Chilwell slipped in the last few weeks. I don't really think that's a motivation issue. I don't know why that's happened. I can't say. Thiago's looked fine. And with the whole Zuma Rudiger thing, and Mount's probably the only player where you can say he's actually on a consistent basis, as actually done. Well, maybe Thiago as well, but in terms of the players who were also playing last season, and then I don't know, man. But I don't believe that as soon as we start playing badly, that it's down to the players not being as good, or down to the players' mentality, or them not wanting to play for the manager. I don't think it's as simple as that. Maybe it's just a case of he's been found out as a manager. I mean, you've got to ask yourself, yeah, at the start of the season, how many people were optimistic when we were beating the likes of Sheffield United, Burnley, Newcastle? Some people were on a mad one talking about we can challenge. I don't think we could challenge, because I still saw some frailties that I'm seeing now. And, at the end of the day, right, I don't think it's as simple to just say, well, you know what, they're not playing for the manager, because there's no real reason as to why they shouldn't be. Everyone really who's playing now has been given a fair chance, bar Callum and a few others. He's had faith in a lot of them. Maybe not Kovacic over a consistent basis, but I just don't. I wouldn't understand why they would not want to play for the manager. You know, I could understand Tomori and Callum maybe, but if anything, it's the younger players that have been doing it this season.
You think it might be a case because we've said the formation isn't getting the best out of a lot of these players. If we're going to look for reasons why, that might be one of them.
Yeah, I mean, someone in the comments was saying about the mentality come from the manager. I completely agree. I've said that for weeks. But with regards to the system, yeah, you look at some of it, like we were saying we wanted Gilmour to play over Jorginho in a couple of games. You look at that and you go, yeah, you know what? Maybe he should be playing. What more does Gilmour have to do to get a game? But then you look at you look at some games and think, no matter who's in that defensive midfield role, they're getting outrun. They're getting overrun every single time. You take the
We don't have a natural DM. That's the thing. We've got two attacking eights that are going to push forward, but they're going to leave too much space in behind for the DM to deal with. So if we don't score off that counter attack and we get hit with another counter, we ain't going to be able to cope with it.
Yeah, but then that's also down to the formation he's playing. You look at Leicester, for instance. They had two players in the middle of the park. They had Ndidi and Tillemans and Maddison just playing in front of them. So they've got that. They've sort of got that 2-man base. You look at a lot of teams in the Premier League. They play with a 2-man pivot. So let's take a look at the Aston Villa game, for instance, when we drew 1-1. Yeah, what Grealish was doing and Watkins were doing is Georgie or whoever it was playing on his own in the defensive midfield role. All it took was Watkins to drop a little bit. He was then dragging the defensive midfielder away, and then all of a sudden, Grealish has got acres of space. If there's two midfielders there, that's not happening because you're gonna get both of them closing down the space, and they're not going to be the strikers or whoever's playing up front's not just going to be able to drop into that hole. Also, you're going to move the ball a lot quicker if you've got like a Gilmour in there, for instance, but. Just on his own, I don't think Gilmour will make the difference, even though I'd rather have him than Jorginho, because the same problem's going to happen when we keep getting overrun. Don't matter who we put in there, Lewis. It's going to happen.
So overall, it's a system failure because regardless of whoever we put in there, the system is going to let the players down.
Yeah, but I already think it's letting a lot of players down. It's no coincidence that not many players have improved under this manager, and we're not seeing the best of... We're not seeing the best of, your Havertz, your Werner or whatever. Let's say, for instance, he played the 4-2-3-1 formation, yeah? That's perfect for Havertz because you've got him playing in that number 10 role. That's where he can free roam. That's where he's at his best. Playing passes in behind, bit of movement, and he doesn't have to do that running he would in a 3-man midfield. So that's one example. What I also don't understand is, Werner's game's all about pace, yeah, and getting in behind. But half the time you've got him on the pitch, you've got Reece James and Chilwell whipping balls into the box. The guy's never going to get his head on it. I mean, we've been saying that's why we want Giroud to start. You know what I mean?
But even with Giroud, I think if we started Giroud in this sort of system, we go from having no aerial threat to just some aerial threat. Because Giroud's got that aerial threat in him, cool. But when he's your only player that's going to do it, he'll still easily get swarmed if they just put another defender on him. It'll still be a hard job for him.
Yeah, but that's partly what we've been saying in the last few weeks. We remember after the Morecambe game, we were saying about how a lot of the time when we play with one striker, they do the opposite of what is actually required. Like, for instance, you'll have Giroud and they'll be trying to play through balls into him when we know the guy's got zero pace.
No pace, yeah.
And when you've got Werner in the box, they're trying to cross it onto his head. Can
I ask a question about that? Because I've always wanted to test that because that's something that's happened with two different managers now. And I'm thinking, is that the way we play or do teams play in a way to force that out of us? Because they know they'd rather see us putting crosses into Olivier Giroud or they'd rather see us putting through balls into Werner. So is it more of a case that those opposition teams try and stop that from happening? Or is it just us not doing it?
I think, sorry, Alex, but I think it's the oppositions. They easily spot us out and they force us to play on the wings because, I mean, I know Frank Lampard's is not really trying to play like wing crosses or cross and inshallah what we've been saying. But I think the managers that we play against, they forced our team wide. They restrict us to only flank play because they close the middle up and then they deal with the crosses with their centre backs. I think that's what I think.
Yeah, because one game that comes out to my head, and it's not even this season's game, it's the last season loss to West Ham at home. Because that's one of the rare games where we started Olivier Giroud in, and we just barely put crosses into his head all game. And then we brought on, I think it was Michy Batshuayi. And as soon as we brought on Batshuayi, all we were doing was spamming in crosses because West Ham suddenly gave us a lot more space on the wings in the final 15 minutes. So it kind of feels like that's the sort of thing that happens with us because we play badly and our tactics do look like a mess. But we aren't brain dead. Like, we can't be absolutely brain dead that we actually want to try and whip in crosses to Timo Werner. It's got to be a case where the opposition's at least trying to force that out of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also, Lewis, you think last season, the West Ham game where we lost 1-0, right? We also didn't have. Well, I don't think Reece James was playing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
I doubt he was playing regularly by that point.
Exactly. We didn't have Chilwell at that point. We would have either had Emerson or Alonso playing. I can't remember. We might have even had Dave playing there for all I know. But anyway, the point still stands. Last season I could take the argument of
James started.
Right. Well, fair enough then. But we didn't have Chilwell on the left-hand side and whatnot, yeah?
Nah, Emerson.
Well, there you go then. I can take the argument last season of people saying that Giroud's not a Lampard player because when he was playing in that West Ham game, for instance, they're trying to play through balls to him. We know the guy's limitations. The guy's never had any pace. So it's completely pointless trying to play a free ball to him, especially when you're up against like an Issa Diop or whatever. It's food and drink to him because he's going to beat him for pace every single time. My issue now is he is a Lampard player because when you've got Reece James whipping in the ball and Chilwell whipping in the ball in the air, that's where you want Giroud because his aerial ability is second to none within this team anyway. But you saying about Lampard, is it other teams sussing us out? Possibly, but that also boils down to game management, Lewis. Remember Wolves away last season, We were all shooting it before kickoff because I think he had an injury or two, and we were all thinking, if
the
we
Wolves
play
away game.
Yeah, I know.
I remember that.
I know Wolves weren't informed then, and they were doing poorly, but we were still thinking, if he plays four at the back, then it could be curtains. He's put a surprise in there. He's played with Alonso at wing back, and that's an example where he's looked at the game, he's looked at how they play, and for that game specifically, he's stuck Alonso in, and he's played with wing backs. That's game management, Lewis. How many times this season has he changed it up? To sort of protect ourselves from certain opposition just running us ragged. He hasn't. He keeps doing the same thing each week. It's the 4-3-3 formation. It quite clearly isn't working. And people can tell me about, but it worked at the start of the season. Listen, just because it works against teams in the bottom of the table, like your Sheffield Uniteds who haven't won a game, and Burnley who have barely picked up any points, that does not give me confidence into thinking if we keep playing that way, then we're going to be challenging for anything. You know what I mean? It's like,
right now, we've got no reason to sit here and think we can challenge for anything. Luton, the only reason why we're still around that point is because it is Luton. And if we don't beat Luton, then we won't even have to worry about the Wolves game and if Lampard's in charge. One question I do want to ask about, just as an outside factor, because I want to just gauge what you guys think. What difference would you lot see if there was fans in grounds? Like, this is just in terms of many different things, in terms of the reception the manager would receive, the reception some of the players would receive, if that would even have a different outcome on the way we play in games. What difference would you guys see if there were fans still in grounds? Nick, I'll start with you.
I think fans would make some difference, but I don't think they'd probably make as big an impact as people might like to think. I remember when we drew 0-0 with Spurs, that was one where I thought if fans were in, it might be different, because I remember from memory, Spurs basically got a lot of decisions from the ref, and there was no one really giving, putting
Yeah, in
pressure on
derby
the referee.
matches. Yeah,
That
exactly
would be,
that.
I think, a big one. And also the fact that I think you might get the crowd trying to get the team to be that bit more ambitious and sit back. In terms of what this is the only sort of, what pains me sort of about Frank's time in charge now is basically half of his reign at Chelsea's been in a pandemic. So he's been without the fans for basically half his reign. And look, I know, things on ground. I'm not sure they necessarily make a huge difference to results now, but he'd at least be feeling the love and support of the fans right now. Like we all gossip. Does Frank have a burner account on football Twitter? Who knows? But if he's, see what people are saying online or what, people are writing in the media, it's pretty damning stuff for him at the moment on the whole. And if at least with the fans in the ground, he'd be getting the support, he'd be hearing 40,000 people behind him. I think, he would have the fans behind him because, Jose, when we were 16th, had the fans singing his name every week. So I think in terms of Frank, he would certainly be feeling the fans love more. Would it change results much? I don't know. Maybe you just try and get the players to try and do stuff more. Maybe at the moment without fans, they're trying to do the safe stuff. But honestly, I don't think fans necessarily would be making a huge difference. All I would say maybe is with fans in, it might maybe if the board were going to get rid of Frank, they do it when there's no fans in the ground, where they can't receive outcry and uproar. Because if you think back to again what happened with Jose, that Sunderland game after, the bridge was not a great place, and everyone with the players etc. were getting it. So if the board were to make a change now, then they're not going to hear outcry. They can maybe hear some outcry on social media, but that's not vocal. They're not going to, and that can sort of be ignored. So would fans make a huge difference in terms of supporting the team? Yeah, they would, because they'd be behind them 100%. They wouldn't be blind to what's going wrong, but there'd be a lot more positivity, I think, around Chelsea than there is now. But in terms of results, probably make very little difference to me.
Yeah, I feel like the thing you said about the Sunderland game, that was a mad one in itself. Do you think we'd be seeing like the two rats of Kai and Timo instead of Hazard and Cesc and Costa?
This is the thing, because I don't think it's it's not as obvious, because a month ago we were outrunning Leeds. Leeds, the fittest team, or one of the fittest teams in Premier League. We absolutely destroyed them. So this is the thing that's most baffling to me, is how it's all unravelled in such a short space of time. So when people go, have players down tools, I can't look at I can't point out an individual to you and go, oh yeah, he's definitely not playing for the manager. But if there was toxicity, if Frank got sacked, it would probably be more aimed at the board. That to me right now is, I think, where it would be aimed. I find it hard to view the players, especially when quite a few of them, I think, I think the players are still playing for Frank. I just think confidence is at a low, and we're struggling to work out how to get out of this rut.
That's the thing, though. But I know how reactionary we are as fans, and in the heat of the moment, like I'm thinking, sitting there in the away and seeing Timo Werner get another miss or something, I could see him getting a lot of stick. Alex, let me go to you. Do you see any different? Would you see any difference with fans in grounds?
You know what? This is a difficult one, because you think under Sarri, right? You remember Cardiff away, right? 90% of the crowd, mate. Bloody hell! I've never heard.
That was the most
so
shameless away crowd I've ever sat in my
exactly.
life.
I remember the Cardiff crowd when they went 1-up, were even trying to sing to us, "We want Sarri in" at one point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
a throwback. Go on.
Yeah, well, they were left with egg on their faces in the end. But anyway, can of worms, we'll save that for another day. Yeah, but with regards to Lampard, I don't think fans would be like, I don't think it'd be bad as, Mourinho in the 15-16 season. But I think it'd be more a case of lack of noise, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think, like last season, how we were all singing his name for most games. I think there'd be less of that, and I also think
you singing Frank's name.
No, I disagree with that.
Yeah, I can't lie. I think knowing our fans,
like,
I'm not saying this season. I'm not saying this season. What I'm saying is, what I'm saying is, I reckon, yeah, if fans were at the ground, then to be honest with you, I reckon that I don't think you'd hear as much singing, but I think it'd be more vocal. You know, I think it'd be more boos at the end of games and stuff. But I can't see him getting the stick another manager would get, because
No,
you know, maybe away from home, you know, different kettle of fish. Who knows? But I don't know, to be honest.
You look at home though. Look at the game. The only real game I could see Frank and the team getting booed off is probably the City game. Out of all the home games this year, I don't think there'd be, maybe Liverpool, but that might also be aimed at the ref or whatever for sending Christensen. I don't think, given how like bubbly and positive that ground was last year, honestly, like Stamford Bridge was probably one of the most positive places going, and that was a stark contrast to the previous season. And given how Frank's name was sung every week, even when he wasn't in charge, that ground would still be singing his name. It would probably be singing his name more than, say, certain players. I'll give you that. It probably would be more behind Frank. But again, that was sort of similar to Jose. But again, you see the guys with We Are the Shed making a Frank banner to be in display on the ground. So there still clearly is like so much love and support from the match going fans, even though they're not at the game. So I do think think, yeah, it'd be huge for Frank having the fans there, to be honest. And yeah, with boos, honestly, correct me, I don't remember that many boos last year, but I think maybe was it the Bournemouth and West Ham games we got booed, but I don't remember.
Bournemouth, West Ham,
at home. I'm trying to remember.
Was there boos at Arsenal? I low-key hope there was, because that second half was an absolute disgrace. Other than that, though, I don't think there was any.
No, exactly. So the ground was pretty positive. And again, you know, I think a lot of them are, I don't want to sort of generalize, but I think a lot of them perhaps more patient than you'll get online. And they're perhaps willing to be, because it's Frank, they're more willing to let emotional sort of love cloud their judgment a bit. So I do think, honestly, like this Stamford Bridge, they'd be singing his name every week to the rafters. I've got absolutely no doubt about that. And the love, especially in a difficult moment, for me, would only be getting stronger. But maybe players' names would be sung less.
All right, Vitmus, our final points with you. Do you want to add to any of the points that they've said? Oh, shit, I put you on mute. Sorry, my bad. Go on.
Yeah, I think Alex and Nick, they cleared it, man. I think maybe, I'm not sure, and maybe because it's Frank Lampard, I don't think the fans would be that, you know, like wanting his head like in Stamford Bridge like that. I think they'll be a bit easier on him. Maybe on social media, yeah, but in the stadium, they wouldn't treat him as bad. But maybe even if we had fans, our confidence level wouldn't be as low, because as Nick said, the fans would be there to, like, you know, cheer on the players or push them. Maybe the fans, you know, they would just add a little bit more, but maybe it would not be enough to help us to get further in the table as we are right now. Because at the end of the day, the manager's tactics and how he sets his team up and things like that pays more account to anything else. I mean, the fans cheering on the squad is okay, and that's like a 5%. But where's the next 95%? That comes from the actual players and Frank, and I don't see that at the moment. So 5% can't win us or get us in the top 4, even if the fans were there.
Yeah, can I say a final thing I'd say on that as well is I think that you might see Frank more animated. I think Frank probably misses the fans a lot more than most managers would, or most managers we've had in the past would. Especially just if you think back about relationship he had with the fans last season. So I think Frank is probably missing the fans, but like the guys, I don't think it would necessarily be making a huge difference to where we're.
Yeah,
but Lewis, in answer to your question, a lot of the points we dropped this season have been away from home, i.e. Wolves, Everton, West Brom, or whatever. Yeah, the home crowds.
Yeah, you're right.
You know how toxic the away crowd can be at times. We've been in it when, you know, the amount of abuse some of the players gets is ridiculous, to be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, just that Sarri game at Cardiff away alone. I mean, I know I keep coming back to that, but that's the epitome of, you know, how vocal the away crowd can be when things aren't going our way. Do you know what I mean? Like, Yeah, but
Yeah, like that, like the away crowd, I think would be 10 times as unforgiving as the home crowd would be, and that would have even less of an impact on the other games because then you'd have the other home crowd to deal with. That would probably be drowning us out. So it was only real to discuss that because I want to see what the differences would be like. Because half the reason why the season is the giant mess that it is, in my opinion, is because there's no crowds. Like for your lower teams, it gives them a lot less pressure. For the bigger clubs as well, they usually act as a 12-man, and they wouldn't be doing that right now. So it would have a small bit of an impact, but wouldn't be too much. As a final point before we wrap up the podcast for this week, Vitmus, we spoke about this on my stream a few hours ago, but we'll chat about this for now. Ruben Loftus-Cheek is starting to get back to his original form. He's still a long way from becoming the Ruben Loftus-Cheek we saw towards the end of the 18-19 season, but he is looking promising as well. And I do want to speak about it because a lot of people are saying now he would be very, very vital to us right now with our lack of like real number 8s in the squad. And here's the thing. I still think Ruben Loftus-Cheek is like one loan spell away from really getting back to his best. I do think we still have to be a bit patient with him. But what are you guys' thoughts on Ruben Loftus-Cheek so far at Fulham? And do you think there's a chance that he could get back into the Chelsea squad? It doesn't necessarily have to be now. It doesn't even necessarily have to be next season. But do you think that there's still an opportunity for Ruben Loftus-Cheek to get back into the side? Nick, I'll start with you again.
Right. Well, I can't say I've watched necessarily a huge amount of Ruben on loan at Fulham this season, but I did watch him last night, and I think maybe we did see some of the Ruben involved with those runs driving from midfield. There was a moment I think last night where he sat Fred down on his arse, which was quite a nice moment in the game. But look, with Ruben, the thing at Fulham is, well, obviously there's pressure, but at Chelsea there'd be less margin for error for him to have poor games. So I think we've got to be patient with Ruben. It's going to take time. You know, I hope he has a future with us because what we saw at the end of 18-19 looked like we were getting a real special player there. But I am cautious of is he going to make it? Given also the fact that you've had Conor Gallagher impressing on loan at West Brom this season. You've got Tino Andrin, coming through, who is, I guess, stylistically in a way similar-ish to Ruben. And then obviously Kai Havertz, the new signing. When you sign someone as talented as him and you pay that money for him, that's obviously going to put a lot more pressure on Ruben and perhaps move him down the pecking order. So, look, I hope he's got a future, but I'm not entirely convinced he will have a Chelsea future. But I hope I'm wrong because I really like him as a player.
I hope that as well. Vitmus, what about you? What's your thoughts, bro?
Yeah, Ruben needs another loan spell. I mean, if you look at the squad that we have right now in midfielders, and if Ruben was to stay again for another season, try to fight for a spot. I mean, that also depends on how good he is in the preseason or in training. And maybe if he gets a chance to play before, the transfer window closes, if he looks good, then we can keep him. But if he's not back to that standard where he was under Sarri, then we'll have to loan him out again. I mean, I'm a big Ruben fan. I mean, he's physical on the ball. He has talent. He can dribble. He can pass when he's up in the game. I like that he can do a thing. But I mean, it all depends on the manager that we get if the club decides to sack Lampard. Because think about it. If we get a new manager at the end of the season, or he might come in and he might not even look at Ruben Loftus-Cheek, depending on the player that he already have to work with. And who he wants to bring in also. So I think Ruben needs another season out to get that drive he had when he was playing for Sarri, and we can have him again.
All right, cool. And final thoughts, Alex. What's your thoughts on Ruben, mate?
I've never doubted his ability whatsoever. I've watched him for years, even when he was in the youth team. That guy. Mate, if he could stay fit, it'd be a baller and a half. But that's the issue with him staying fit. I mean, yesterday, you see how good he can be. Obviously, his finishing is something he needs to improve on. Getting more goals than that. But I don't know. To be honest, I've said this before. No doubts about what he can do. But I think he's 24 years old, right? He's not getting any younger. I don't think it'd be sensible to just loan him. To be honest with you, I'd rather cash in on him because you don't know when he's going to be fit. And like Vitmus was saying, we get a new manager and he doesn't rate him. It does nothing to him just loaning him out. I mean, I remember when he was on loan at Palace a couple of years ago. Yeah, that ended horrifically because he got a bad injury, and it just seems to me then Sarri puts him in, and even started the first game this season against Brighton. Everyone forgets about that. And, now he's on loan at Fulham. I don't think it does his confidence any good to just keep loaning him out. I'd rather cash in on him and, whilst we can still get a good fee for him rather than trying to pin your hopes on him, he gets injured, whatnot, and then we're in that same cycle again. But yeah, I don't doubt his ability as a footballer. Don't get me wrong.
All right, David. Like we were literally just about to wrap up, but we'll still go through the question review. It's cool. We'll get you on another live sometime anyway. But thanks for jumping on. And yeah, Ruben Loftus-Cheek. What are your thoughts on him over the last few games? And do you think he still has an opportunity to come back and make something of himself at Chelsea? It doesn't have to be now. Doesn't have to be next season either, because I personally think he's going to need another loan. But do you still think he can potentially make it back to the club? What's your thoughts? And also, seeing as you've only just jumped in, chat to us about your whole thoughts on the Lampard situation as well.
Basic. All right. So Ruben, just get rid of him. He's not good enough. He doesn't have whether you can talk about his quality of how good he is at football, but he can't keep fit, and that is a massive part of being a football player. So personally, I'd cash in on him because you could still get a good amount of money for him. The whole Lampard situation, he's got to go. He's not good enough. This giving him 3 games is a waste of time because the 3 games are against Luton, who we should beat, but if he loses, he'll get sacked. Burnley, who we should beat, but if he loses, he gets sacked. And Wolves, who we lost to. And to be fair, we might beat them because they're not in the top 10 and we do struggle. And we're actually quite good against teams not in the top 10. Honestly, he doesn't know his best 11. People know my opinions on who should be starting and who isn't.
What's your opinions, by the way?
Mason Mount needs to be benched. He's not good enough. He's just not good enough.
not good enough right now, or not good enough in a different system?
Oh, not good enough right now. I'd drop him. I'd have dropped him. I don't see
right
it
now though. He's carrying.
All I'm saying is right. Everyone's talking about how he's the only one putting in any effort. So you're telling me at 100%, and everybody else is playing at 40-30%. They're putting in about the same level of performance. The only difference is that one looks like he's trying harder.
No, because I think Mason Mount's performing better than the other two, though.
I really don't think he is. You saw that what they did on Sky Sports when Jamie Redknapp was like, at least Mount's playing well, and they pulled up all the stats compared to all the other English players. And I've been saying it. He's not better than Phil Foden. He's not better than James Maddison. He's not better than Jack Grealish. Not even close to them. They whipped out all the stats. He's basically the lowest in all of them, apart from defensive actions, and that was the only reason is because he played the most minutes. So of course he's going to have the most actions.
Okay, so what would you say he's lacking at? Because if I was going to nitpick, I will say his chance creation thing is a bit of a false image because he does take a lot of corners. But other than that, what is he really missing though?
Pretty much everything. Honestly, he can play basic passes, he can play forward passes, cool. All of them can do that, but he's not contributing enough to the goals. He isn't. You can't be playing the most minutes out of everyone in the team. Everyone talk about how you're the best player in the team, and then have I think he's got 2 goals and 3 assists or something, and he takes every free kick and corner. He's just honest. I personally don't see it. The only thing the reason why people love him so much is he's a youth player. I don't have this inherent youth love thing that everybody else does. I'm I don't care who you are. If you're not best, what's best for Chelsea right now, then you shouldn't be in the team. Lampard has built a system in which is get the best out of him because he's the one who tries the most. That's the whole system. That's the system. Build it around him because he's the one who tries the most. However, is it getting the best out of everybody else in the team? No. So
So you think it's a case that like this comment is saying that the team's built too much around Mount to get the best out of him?
Yeah.
Okay. Just when I thought we were gonna have a peaceful one with no issues. anyone want to debate what David's been saying?
Yeah. Let me say something quick. You
Go
see,
for it.
right? David have a point. I'm not going to say he's fully right, but if we are talking about the Chelsea that we have been watching for years, I've been watching Chelsea for almost 2 decades, but coming from the Makaleles and the Ballacks and the Essians and all of them, the Franks, to actually a Mason Mount, which we're saying is our best midfielder, he's kind of right. But Mount has been our best midfielder this season, so I can't say get him out unless we have a next talented midfielder that can come in and do better than Mason Mount. If not, we have to keep Mount until maybe he gets better, or we can replace him. We can't get rid of Mount now and he's our best player, best midfielder in terms of work rate and trying to at least bring the ball forward or things like that.
However, is Mason Mount the best player because he is actually the best midfielder, or is he the best player because the system is built to benefit him the most?
No, it's not
because because we know Kante can play DM, but he doesn't really play in a single DM role.
No,
Kovacic isn't an 8. Jorginho's not an 8. Gilmore, I don't understand why Chelsea fans are suddenly like, let's rely on Gilmore because he's played 4 games, 2 of them he was really good, and 2 of them he wasn't so great. So why you want to put all your hopes on Billy Gilmore, I do not understand. Also, our midfield isn't strong enough to have a midfield of Kante and Billy Gilmore because they'll just get overrun and they'll get bullied because they are both short, quite weak players. So again, is the system built? Is Mason Mount the best midfielder because he actually is the best midfielder, or is he the best midfielder because because he's an actual 8? He's an actual 8. Havertz is not an 8.
Number 8 we have, and
Havertz is not an 8. Kovacic isn't an 8. Jorginho is not an 8. Kante is not an 8.
What would you say Kovacic
not
is? Because I wouldn't have him down as a number 10, really, because his final.
I'd have Kovacic as I'd play Kovacic like we did last year next to Kante or Jorginho. Yesterday was
against number 6.
Yeah, against Leicester. I thought because Kante was out, he'd go Kovacic, Jorginho, because that's what worked for him last year. That's what I thought he would do. But then he went with basically 3 midfielders, and they're all quite attacking midfielders. I'd say Kovacic is there to play deep, dribble past and play really progressive passes, and then that's all he's there to do. Having Mount doing that because he's this great presser. Like he just runs out of position and he leaves massive gaps in behind. So I already knew we were going to get panned before we'd even played the game.
So you're saying he's the best for this system because, like, if we played a 4-2-3-1 or something, he could play the number 10, but he isn't ever getting in over Havertz or Ziyech.
Yeah, 100%.
And in any other formation, he could work, but you think there'd be better midfielders suited for whatever role he'd be in the team. I can't lie, you man might hate what he's saying, but he's spitting a bit of sense. Like, I do still think Mason Mount's been the best number 8 that we've had this season, and the stats and the way he's been performing shows that. But if you're saying in a different formation, would he get into the side? I mean, that is a question in itself. Like in the comment section, because I can't lie, you absolutely triggered everyone. You put your points out well.
That may say he has a point. We can't, bro. A real thing in my thought, bro. He have a point. If we change the system, Mount can't play, bro.
Why? Again, it's like Ollie. When I always say when you look at the top 10 teams, you've got City, whose system is built around Kevin De Bruyne. You've got Spurs, who's Son and Kane. You've got Man United, who's Bruno Fernandes. Leicester's is Jamie Vardy, Maddison, whichever one. Pick either of the two, and you go through each team, and you suddenly realise Mount's actually probably the worst quality of player out of the teams who a system is built around. So of course it would make sense that out of all of those teams, we're the worst one. It just does make sense. Mason Mount doesn't start. He doesn't start for Spurs. Doesn't start for Liverpool. Doesn't start for Man United. Doesn't start for Man City. Who does he start for in Liverpool?
I'm not saying Liverpool. Jose would love someone like Mason Mount. He would. He would. I think he's a workhorse, mate. Look what he did with Oscar. He turned Oscar into a workhorse. Jose Mourinho would absolutely adore Mason Mount.
Would he?
And I know you mentioned all these midfielders that you think Mason's better than, and better than Mason. That's fair enough. But also, apart from Foden, most of them are pretty much a few years older than him and have been playing in the Prem a lot longer than him as well.
Yeah,
and look,
but
I'm not like.
yeah, but again, was James Maddison playing week in, week out for Leicester at the age of 21, 22? No, he wasn't.
No, agreed. But that's
He was
the
at Norwich.
situation
He was
you're in,
he was
though.
in the Championship learning his trade. Then he came up at 23. He had a couple of good seasons, and now he's 25, 26. Jack Grealish, when he first came into the Premier League, was a young player who everyone was like, he's really good, but again, he wasn't contributing enough. Went back into the Championship, learned his trade. He's come back now as an older player, and he's far better. That's why everyone's talking about Jack Grealish. When people try and compare Frank Lampard and Mason Mount, what I always think about is, yeah, I understand that they're both young Chelsea players who have come up through the system, but the reason you talk about Frank Lampard is not for the youth stint where he was struggling to get in, where he was struggling to contribute to goals and everyone's doubting him. You talk about when he was older and he was contributing to all these goals and all these assists, and that made him the top scoring midfielder in the Premier League. You talk about him at his best. You don't talk about him when he was a youth player. Playing this kid week in, week out, especially now when he looks tired. I'm seeing by the time it hits 65, 70 minutes, he's trying to do tactical fouls and he's so tired he can't even do that. He's played every single minute of every game apart from one or two. And he's so tired that his quality is dropping. I get, yeah, it's cool. People send me stats all the time on my Instagram, like, oh, he's done this progressive pass and he contributes this many chances in a game. But I'm like, if he's so good at doing all of this, why is there no output at the end? Because it's not purely, our forwards can't finish. It's not only that. It's not.
So, let me say something before we go further. I know, Louis, sorry, let me just say something quickly.
Go for it.
For the guys in the comments, I mean, David is going hard on Mount, and which, I mean, he's going a little bit too hard, but I understand him. I'm a Chelsea fan. I love Chelsea till I die, but I have to agree with some areas, because if we change to 4-2-3-1 and we were to get a natural CDM to play beside N'Golo Kante, who would you guys prefer to play the number 10 role behind of Timo Werner or Tammy Abraham? Mount, Kai Havertz, or Kobe. It would be Kai Havertz, bro.
Don't get me started on Tammy Abraham.
You get me? Mason Mount is a very good player.
So, yeah.
But he's not that good in terms of the way we'd love Chelsea to play. But he is a very good player. But if we are building a system that we play two CDMs or a CDM and a more mobile CM, Mason Mount would not be that pairing. It would have to be N'Golo Kante, and if we get Declan Rice or if we had Partey or someone like that, he could not play in that team. So I understand what David is saying, but I still believe that Mason Mount.
I agree that Mason Mount has been one of our best players this season? Yes, I do. But I feel
do you also think Mason Mount has the potential to become that player that everyone's saying?
I feel like Mason Mount has the potential to become the player.
Okay, cool. Then we're in full agreement.
Again, my thing is I don't think Mason is an awful player and should never play. That's not my thing. That's getting closer to Tammy Abraham, because that's a different kettle of fish, that guy.
Man just came to rinse the whole Chelsea youth.
No,
listen. As long as there's no Hudson-Odoi slander, you're all good in here, mate.
I love Hudson-Odoi.
Yes,
But again, Hudson-Odoi needs to improve himself as well.
Yeah.
However, but when Lampard was talking about, I'm going to give Hudson-Odoi the minutes, I was thinking, that's cool. He's going to drop Pulisic. We're going to have Ziyech on the right and Hudson-Odoi on the left, because those are their natural positions. Then you see the lineup and I see Pulisic and Hudson-Odoi, and I'm like, well, this isn't going to work because they're both left wingers. I don't understand why he doesn't build a system around the players in the team, which is why I want Tuchel, because Tuchel has played a different system at PSG and Borussia Dortmund and has got the best out of the players he has available. Also, when it comes to youth, who do I trust more to actually improve them? Do I trust Frank Lampard more, or do I trust Thomas Tuchel more? Because Thomas Tuchel was at Dortmund, and look at what he did for Pulisic. Pulisic is our own player, and those two have a connection. He'll have a connection with Kai Havertz. He'll have a connection with Timo Werner. He'll have a connection with Tony Rudiger. So there's already 4 players in the squad that he's already got a connection with. He speaks fluent French, so he can communicate with Zuma and Mendy. He speaks Thiago Silva was his captain last year, so it's not. So Thiago Silva already knows the system pretty well. Like, it does make sense to bring in Tuchel more than any other manager. I'm not a fan of Allegri because I don't want to go back to defensive football. If you want to play attacking football, get in attacking managers. I don't want Nagelsmann because I feel like Nagelsmann is too young. He'll make mistakes. He'll take time to build the system longer than it will with Tuchel, and fans will just be like this. Especially if we sack Lampard as well, because they'll want whoever's next in. They'll want their head straight away because they'll be like, "Well, it's not Frank Lampard." Again,
the sorry boys.
I don't have this link with Lampard that I think everybody else has. Not because I don't like Lampard. It's because I am able to separate Lampard as a player as Lampard as a manager. Because the way I look at it is like, yeah, it's cool what Lampard did as a player, but as a manager, what is he doing for me right now? Because he's not doing enough. I'm sorry, winning 1 against the top 10 teams. If that's anybody else, we'd all be calling for his head. He would have been gone weeks ago. So I don't see why he gets a free pass. I don't see it. I understand, yeah, he's record goal scorer, legend of the club. I get that. But that's as a player. If I hired him as a player, then I'd understand, give him an extra couple of games. That's fine. I wouldn't have a problem with that. But as a manager, what is he doing for me right now? And it's not enough. That's why I want him gone.
I think it just depends how like everyone views football. I think we all view football differently. Like some people will view it more clinically, and some people will let emotions like affect their judgment. And I don't think it's wrong to do like it either way. So like look, when people say to me like Frank should go, I can't argue with them. I don't want him to. But when they present me evidence, I can't really say no, you're wrong. I want him to stay because of what he means to me. But you're asking me, it's emotionally based. But that's how I support Chelsea, and that's how I think. So that's why you're always going to get people with different views on it.
Yeah, no, with me, it's literally like cold, like best.
Yeah,
I want the best 11
killer.
Yeah, I want the best
emotions.
I want the best
exactly.
11 people
I
on
can't.
that pitch.
Yeah,
That's the same with me. Like,
and I'm consistent with.
One at a time.
The only youth player who should be starting right now, week in, week out, is Reece James. And Reece James right now is having a bad patch, but I expect that because he's a young player. This is why also, again, I didn't want Mason playing every single game because he's a young player, and these young players that come in will have bad games. This is what I say to Arsenal fans right now. They're like, oh, we're doing so well. Smith Rowe's better than Havertz. This, I'm like, yo, you can think that's cool. But I'm telling you, after 10, 15, 20 games, what are they doing? Because they're young and they're still adjusting to playing men's football. It takes years to adjust to that. It takes years. So I always, when it comes to youth players, I always hold back because I'm not one of these people that's like, oh, he's my youth player. Do I want Mason every time Mason plays? Do I want him to have a banging game? Of course. When I see Tammy play, do I want him to have a banging game? Of course. I love Tino Andrew. I haven't even seen him play senior football that much, but I want Tino Andrew to be that guy because I think he's fantastic. But again, I will always have it in my head like, is Tino Andrew a better player than Kai Havertz? When like 5 years down the line, Tino Andrew and Kai Havertz could be really good, both of them. If Tino Andrew is not better than Kai Havertz, I don't want him in the team. However, if Tino Andrew is better than Kai Havertz, I want him in the team. I don't see enough evidence for Mason Mount to be starting every single game and for a system to be built around him because he just hasn't contributed enough.
Can I ask
No,
Dave?
you can't say that about contribution, brother. Your contribution, you can't. You were right until it's a contribution, bro. Mason Mount contribute more to the team than me. Of course, Man's contribution to the team has been very good.
He runs about a lot. I get that. Cool. He covers distance.
But he score crucial goals too.
David, can I ask you who you think from midfielders contributed more than Mason Mount this season?
Okay, but the way I do it, right, is I look at your output and I'm seeing Mason Mount has played the most minutes out of all of them, and Kai Havertz has more goal contributions in all competitions. That is as cold-blooded as I see it, because you can argue, oh yeah, Kai Havertz has played against the worst quality of team, but when we come up against a top 10 team, no one contributes to anything. So I don't see that really as an argument. So I'd say I think Kai Havertz, especially Kai Havertz at the start of the season when he was starting to get that run of games, I remember against Burnley, I was like, yeah, he's ready to kick on, and then obviously he got COVID. So I think I understand why people are so in love with Mason. I get it. But I don't see it because the system is built to him.
To be fair, I think he's a different player to Havertz. You wouldn't typically see Havertz drop him back into to make that 2-man defensive midfield. And
but that's because that's not his position. Why'd I bring in Jamie Vardy to play right wing? It doesn't make sense.
I know, but I'm agreeing with you. This is what I'm saying. The fact that he's playing, is caters for Mount's position. Yeah, I agree with you. That's what I've been saying for the last couple of weeks. Havertz is being misused in this current system. But the sole fact that Mason Mount is playing at the moment is not the reason why we're doing as bad. It might be the system, but it's not Mason Mount's individual performances.
Again, I've never come out and been like, I blame Mason Mount for a loss. That's not happened. But my point is that the reason why I go so hard, especially at Mason, is because I've seen Kovacic be dropped. I've seen Jorginho be dropped. I've seen Kante got suspended, but Kante is like so essential because he's the only DM at the club that we have to play him regardless. I've seen Havertz dropped. I've seen Werner dropped. I've seen Hudson-Odoi be dropped. I've seen who else have I seen? I've seen Kurt Zuma dropped. I've seen all these players dropped for having bad performances. Mason Mount has had bad performances this year, 100%. But he doesn't. They don't receive the same energy.
No, I completely agree with you. I've been saying this. I
always say it like this: if Hudson-Odoi was dropping Mason Mount level performances every game, he wouldn't start every game. That's where my issue is.
No, I completely agree with you. If you've heard me on in this couple, I've been saying this. I've been saying that. Do I think Hudson-Odoi is the best wide player we got at Chelsea? No, I don't. Is he on form at the moment? Yes, he is. And that's why he should be playing. And I hear people telling me, yeah, but he should be playing Pulisic instead or Ziyech. Do I think they're better players than Callum? Of course they are. But it's not just the quality of a player. At the end of the day, Lampard's the one saying these players will be picked on merit. They're not being picked on merit if Callum has 4 or 5 good games and is then benched. And I hear him out, like you said, David, about him saying Callum's going to get more minutes and whatnot. And when you've got all 3 attackers fit, someone has to sit out. Well, why does Callum have to sit out then? Because he's in form right now.
I remember there was when we were all asking for Timo Werner to play up front, and it was Man City, and we finally got it. I remember talking to one of my friends, and I was there like, "You are aware this doesn't change anything?" And they were like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Because he's still going to do the same crossing from the wide for the whole game, and Timo Werner's not built to do that." They were like, "Nah, surely not. He wouldn't do that. He's obviously going to play to Werner's strength." No, but then the City came around and like just started whipping in balls constantly, and Timo's just looking like, "Well, what do you want me to do?" Timo Werner and Jamie Vardy are about the same quality of player. I reckon Timo Werner's probably maybe even slightly better than him. But Brendan Rodgers plays football to get the best out of Jamie Vardy because again, you are judged on your match day performance, which is another thing I have a problem with Frank with when he says, "Oh yeah, your training is so important." I understand like training is important. I get that, but your job is not on the line in training. So picking your team based on training doesn't make sense. You should pick your team based on training plus match day performance. Have some of the best match day performers been picked as much as the best trainers? No, but it doesn't make sense because you're going to lose your job that way. And again, when the team looks at each other and go, "Well, I've had a better performance than him in the last game. I'm training maybe just as well, in my opinion. Why am I going to listen to Frank now?" I feel like the whole team's it's a whole disconnect because you have Mason who loves him because no matter what he does, he's fantastic. And then you've got all the other, you've got Timo Werner and Kai Havertz who are being constantly roasted by our own fans just because they've been struggling. And then Kovacic hasn't been paid in his position. Jorginho gets caught trash when the thing is, again, with Jorginho, it's quite an obvious thing. Jorginho is not your typical CDM. Jorginho is a guy that when you play Jorginho, you play to his strength because that's the best way to get out of him. You constantly give him the ball, whether it is sideways or backwards. You hold possession because it means that the other team doesn't have it. And you keep just passing it back and forth, keep possession, and that's how you get the best out of Jorginho. That's when Jorginho against Crystal Palace, when we were doing that to him, we looked really good because Crystal Palace weren't going to press us. Jorginho could hold the ball and he could pick the passes a lot better. If you're going to play Jorginho, you play to his strengths. You're gonna play Kovacic, you play to his strengths. Again, is the current system getting the most positives out of the squad? No, because basically the back 5 stays the same regardless. The back 5 is its own thing. But when I talk about going forward, he's probably getting the best out of maybe one player, maybe 2 if you want to argue that. That's about it if you want to argue Ziyech. But the rest of the team is like, you're not getting the strength out of them. Yeah, you're playing them in their positions, but constantly playing it out wide to Reece James and crossing it into a 5'11" Timo Werner doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. What you should be doing is you should be getting someone behind him, or you could I know it's not his actual position, but you could play Havertz as a false 9 if you want to try and coach that. But he's always complaining about how he doesn't have enough time to coach. He does have enough time to coach, but there are 2 weeks that went missing somewhere, and we came back and looked the exact same. But, you know,
I can't lie, false 9 Kai Havertz is a dream of mine.
But play those two next to each other, maybe. I don't know, do something like that. But you've got to play to the team's strengths. You've got to find a way to unlock Timo Werner. You have to, because he's just. It's not like Timo is we all know Timo Werner and Kai Havertz are not bad players. Like, yeah, they're in bad form, but they are not bad. They are not bad players.
You know what the thing? Lampard know the right, but does the wrong, because he played Kai Havertz in a more attacking position against in the Morecambe game, even though it's just Morecambe, but it shows you what he does, what Kai Havertz does when he plays more attacking. He gets into the box and he's closer to the goal to get a shot off, or, you know, like the goal he scored or the assist he made to Werner. He was there, you get me, to head that ball across the goal to Werner. And when we go to the Premier League, Lampard plays him back into a right center midfield, which he knows that's not the man's position. So that's why, I mean, I love Lampard. I want him to succeed as a club. I understand some of the fans that want him to be there, but it's not working. And we can't just sit and just watch something like it's like we're in a bus watching the bus going to crash, and we're just gonna sit in it and say, yes, driver, just run us over the cliff or run into that next bus because we'll die with you, bro. I'm a Chelsea fan. If Lampard stays until the next 4 seasons and we don't win anything, I will still be here. I'm not leaving with Lampard. You get what I'm saying? So we want the club to do good. So we have to get a manager in that can put smiles on our face. Whenever we do all a phone in our podcast call, everyone's smiling and they're all good comments. But at the moment, it's not working, and the fans need to understand this. And we, all of us here, have said, Lewis, Nick, Alex, and even David, we know this. If it was another manager, we would have been wanting this guy out. But because of love and
and another thing is, half these, obviously I want Lampard out. That's known now, but it's hypocritical because half the people telling me about, he needs time, he's a legend, all of this, will be the same people saying that no one player is bigger than the club.
Exactly.
So you can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, you have to want him in. You have to back this process we don't even know what it is because he's Lampard. But you'll also be saying that no one player is bigger than the club. Well, as far as I'm aware, Lampard did play for Chelsea.
And another thing as well is that he doesn't have any history to back him. He can't be like, look at what I've done at this club or that club. All he's got is, I got to a playoff final at Derby. That's it. And ironically, him losing got him the job, which I find really big.
It comes down to the fault of the board as well. I mean, the board is to be blamed as well, because Frank was just here to just fill the gap, and he filled the gap last season. He got us into the Champions League for this season. They should have tell him, get him to be the assistant coach and hire the main manager that we needed to have us for this season. He should have been the assistant coach. I've said this to Lewis. He should have never started this season as the main manager. You get me? He could have been there as the connection with the players, because the players would be looking up to him.
Duncan Ferguson role, perfect.
It's Frank Lampard. He's there.
Exactly what I've been saying.
Alex David.
This is exactly what I've been saying. I said, I understand why he was appointed, given the transfer ban and whatnot, right? But that doesn't just mean to say that, he should be our manager indefinitely just because he's a Chelsea legend. The guy before he came to Chelsea had 1 season of experience, and yet I still hear people saying, but maybe we should keep him 3 years, because you look at Jurgen Klopp. It's a completely different ballgame. Jurgen Klopp was an experienced manager who won back-to-back Bundesligas, not to mention the fact that Frank Lampard has spent £200 million in the transfer window just gone. Jurgen Klopp did not spend that in the whole of his in the whole of his 2 seasons as Liverpool manager. Furthermore, when Jurgen Klopp was appointed, right, Liverpool had also gone 25 years without winning a league title. So the circumstances are completely different. We as Chelsea fans, especially in the modern day, expect us to be winning stuff, right? I'm not having this, oh, give him time, oh, he needs time. I'm hearing people make excuses for him because he didn't have a pre-season. So what other manager had a pre-season then? I hear people saying, well, he needs time because he's got new players. Dean Smith's got new players as well. He's got 5 new players. Dean Smith is 3 points behind us with Aston Villa, and they've got 4 games in hand. So I'm not hearing all this rubbish people are coming out with. The amount of excuses this manager gets is untold. And I don't even hate this manager, but sometimes you've got to hold your hands up and say he's not doing the job that's required. And so far this season, he's not been. People could say, "Oh yeah, look at us at the start of the season." I've explained my viewpoint on that already. Yeah, when we start beating some teams above us, yeah, and more than one side in the top 10, then maybe I'll buy into this process. No one knows what it is. Maybe when we start picking up some points against the big 6, maybe I'll also buy into this process that apparently people were telling me to trust. Well, a 3-year plan that the club have issued when Lampard was appointed is not the same as a process. A process are individual steps you take to achieve something. Giving you a 3-year plan saying form a squad, challenge for the honours, win the honours is not a process. That is a plan, and people need to understand the difference.
No, but one thing is this whole trust the process thing. I don't think people know where it comes from, but it's not a good thing.
It's basketball.
It's not a good thing. Every team that I said trust the process, it flops. I don't. Whenever I hear people be like, trust.
Where
the
did
process,
it originate from? By the way,
It comes from basketball.
Basically, Philadelphia 76ers were really bad. And then they got in a new GM and they were like, oh, let's trust the process. It became a thing, trust the process. And they started drafting all these young players and they built a squad. And the squad got to a point when it was like everyone was like, oh, this should get into at least the semi-finals of basketball. Never made it past the round of 16. Never. And now that guy's gone. They brought in a new geezer. And like suddenly the team looks a lot better. The whole trust the process thing, it doesn't work. Every time I hear it makes me cringe.
After people, I've had about 50 people telling me to trust this so-called process. One person has told me what they think it is. Yeah, I
can't lie. Every single time since the phone-in, I've heard bare people ask what the process is. I haven't heard a single response.
Yeah, because that's people who want him in and are trying to force their views onto people who want him out by calling them plastic and trying to pull the wool over their eyes saying there's a process. Well, tell me what it is then, because the only process I see at the moment is no matter where Frank finishes in the table, or no matter what he does, or no matter what shit team he puts out, or no matter what mistake he makes, we'll back him anyway because he's a Chelsea legend. Well, where's his same treatment for Di Matteo, who, by the way, was actually 3rd when he got sacked? Yeah, I understand. We didn't make it past the group stage of the Champions League. Still in a much better position in the league. We were 4 points behind City, who were top of the table at that time. We were 3rd in the league. We're 8th, 9th now, but people are still telling me to trust this process. There is no fucking process.
Di Matteo won the Champions League and didn't get time, and he was a former player.
I will say,
to be fair, like people were not happy when Di Matteo went.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Especially because Benitez came in straight afterwards.
In the 16th minute, the rest of that people were singing his name.
Like, go on, Nick. Finish.
I was going to say, like, when Di Matteo got sacked, I'm pretty sure the whole ground was in the 16th minute was singing for the rest of that season. There's only one Di Matteo, so like. When you talk about, you know, where not where's this energy, but where was this for Di Matteo? Like, fans were not happy when Di Matteo got sacked.
Some
were what?
Some were happy when he got sacked because it's a valid point, but you know, these same people say about but it wasn't Di Matteo that won the Champions League and whatever. It was the players because they had leaders. All right, cool. Well then. When he goes on a bad run, then it also can't be his fault, can it? You can't have it both ways.
I think that's just a cheap excuse out for them, because I remember I didn't go to as many games back at that time, but I remember being at enough to get a feel what the mood was around grounds when he left. They did not fuck with Benitez Straight up, like every 16th minute for months straight, I was hearing one Di Matteo. Anytime we were at a losing point, one Di Matteo. It'd be the same thing with Lampard, I could see. So there is the same consistency on that point, but it's also the same wrong sort of consistency.
Yeah, but you've also got to look at the context of it, Lewis. Most Chelsea fans didn't like Rafa Benitez because of the comments he made when he was the manager at Liverpool. I don't think it's so much a case of most of them wanting Di Matteo to stay. I think it was more of a case of, yeah, you know what, maybe Rafa Benitez is a better manager, but we don't like him as a person. So what we'll do is, I mean, even after he won stuff, they're still singing at the bridge about him being a fat Spanish waiter. I still hear that song.
Yeah, whenever we faced Newcastle, I remember those.
To be fair about that, I've got to admit that like the match going fan base are incredibly sentimental and like definitely let emotion cloud their judgment. Like I think we've got to admit that it's not necessarily as logical.
But that's why I'm glad fans aren't taking grounds right now.
We've seen like David
massively toxic.
I'm not a match going fan.
I'm just saying, but I'm saying like with the match going fan, perhaps aren't as at times logical as clinical as some of you guys are, and you guys have made some great points. That's what I'm saying though, in terms of the match going fans, like whether or not people would like it. When people say where would fans be, you know, as outraged as Di Matteo going as lamps were, then well certainly match going fans would be.
But do you know, literally, I'm such a not going match. I've seen Chelsea 6 times in my life. Every single time has been away. I've never been to Stamford Bridge in my life. That's
away
like
you've done the away games first.
Away games
in home grounds because all my friends support other teams. So like one of my friends on the Palace team is a Palace fan. And do you remember the year when Diego Costa scored? It was a 1-0 win. Costa scored a header from across. I was at that game and I had my Chelsea shirt on and I completely forgot. And he had to give me a hoodie because they were absolutely giving me shit for it. It was mental.
You were in the away end in a Chelsea shirt.
I wasn't in the. He was with
the home fans.
I wasn't with the the big the
away games with the home fans.
I was at away games. Yeah, so I'm with
man.
So I've seen Chelsea 6 times, but they've all been like away from home. So I've never been to Stamford Bridge. So like I don't have the sentimental thing. That's why I feel like I don't have it because I don't go week in week out. I don't see that. I don't see the players like all the time. I hear about them, but I'm not going out my way to watch them week in week out like some people do.
That's fair enough.
Lewis, right? I think this argument's just going round in circles, right? Because you already know from the people who come on this week in week out, you know our views already, right? At the end of the day, it's not going to matter what we think. Abramovich will make a decision based on what he thinks. You know,
that's why I'm Team Roman. I'm not Lampard in. I'm not Lampard out. I'm Team Roman. Wherever Roman wants, wherever I want.
What I will say is, right, let's say he turned it around, and he went on a good run. I wouldn't be one of those Lampard outs who goes, oh, yeah, but it wasn't him. Oh, it was the players. I'll give him credit. I'll say, you know what? Fair enough. But
depends on the way we win, because it could be a case where we turn it around based on individual brilliance, like what United fans say with Ole. So even if we do win a few games, it's all about the way you win it, because fact is we went on a 17-game unbeaten run. We all got ahead of ourselves. So we can't get ahead of ourselves over another run of games. If we win our next two league games, I'm still going to remember the poor 7 games before that. I need to see it in the big games.
I haven't seen a good performance in about 2 months.
Of course. I agree with that. But what I'm saying is, Lewis, the difference between Ole and Lampard is Ole can go, Ole, you know, right, from watching, Ole is only ever...
Oh my gosh, Burnley penalty. Oh my gosh.
You're joking.
10 minutes left, Burnley penalty. Oh my gosh, is this how the unbeaten run's going to end?
No, but the difference is, Ole is only ever a couple of games away from the sack at United, and he'll then turn it round and win 3 or 4 games on the trot. I haven't seen Lampard do that here. And I understand there's people in the comments saying plastic or whatever. Well, if you don't want to listen to me, don't watch me. It's as simple as that. But what I will say is, just because I don't want him, it doesn't make me a plastic fan. You know.
No, you want the best for the club, bro.
Exactly. We at the end of the day, whether we want him in or out, we all want the same thing, which is for Chelsea to be successful. Yeah. I'm not being told I'm a plastic fan just because I don't agree with you. It's true.
Let me say something towards what you said earlier about the whole trust the process thing. Brother, we had better managers that got less time than Frank Lampard. I'm not pinpointing on some of the guys in the comments, but maybe most of them were like, get him out. at this moment in our lives watching football and watching Chelsea, bro, Frank Lampard has not offered that kind of stability in our team play for us to give him time to say trust the process. Bro, Maurizio Sarri had a process that I trusted. And like 80% or 85% of the Chelsea fans were like, sorry, fuck Sarri ball. I was so like, what would I say, no, disappointed and sad the way they treated the guy after he came in just a few months. And this man was leading the club in a right direction, in attacking football. We were playing so good. Yeah, we lost to Bournemouth, but some guys forgot that the season before, fucking Antonio Conte lost to Bournemouth also. So what do we want? Frank Lampard does not have any tactics. You can't see, bro. I've been asking this weeks and weeks. What kind of football has Frank Lampard? What is he playing? I can't see it on the field.
Do you know the thing though? Do you know the thing though, Vimus? You know, I'm not gonna sit and lie to you. At the time, I wanted Sarri out as well, and I had a lot of energy for wanting him out. You know, I was impatient. I'll hold my hands up, but you know, I'm looking at it. I looked at it, you know, straight after he won the Europa League, and I thought even towards the end of the season, I thought, do you know what? Maybe there is a process here, and you know, at least looking back, you can say that the guy actually did have a process, and no one was saying, you know, all this trust the process malarkey, yeah. But the difference being is, you know, yeah, to begin with, I wanted Sarri out, but now I want the same energy for this manager. I've wanted him out since October. It's not a case of, oh, we lose 3 or 4 games, let's jump on the bandwagon. No, I've said this from time ago because I see the frailties we have, even when we're winning games, and they're now coming back to bite us on the arse, and people are acting as if, you know, it's something drastic's just happened. We haven't played well, like David said, probably for about 2 months. The last game I can think of that we probably played half decent was probably the Leeds game.
Again, that Leeds game was. I remember watching it and we won through, and I was there like, this has been awful. We are shocking, you know. Like the thing is with Sarri, like you could, like regardless of what happened, Sarri was like, this is the way I play my football. We're gonna learn how to play it. Obviously, it was gonna take time to learn the way we play football. But he was like, this is the way we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it this way. I don't care whether we get beat 6-0 by Man City. Next week, I'm going to do the same thing. And we should have actually won that game. Like, he was a bit more conservative. Like, yeah, we should have won that game, but we were unlucky that day. But he had a system, and I knew exactly what he was trying to do. Last year, when I was looking at Lampard, I was like, you know what? I can see exactly what he's trying to do. I've got no, like, I wasn't all for Lampard at the start. But obviously, when he got 4th, I was like, you know what? I can see what he's trying to do. Let's see what happens next year. And it started off quite, like, again, Brighton was a bit of a weird one, but it started off quite well this season. And then we went on the winning run, and I was like, hold on, I'm looking at the teams. Sheffield United was a big win for me because last year Sheffield United pammed us.
They drugged us.
And I was like, everything they're good at, we're bad at. So if we can win this game, it'll be a good thing for us. And then I was like, I saw the run around Everton and afterwards, and I was like, if we can win these games, then I'll take Lampard. Like,
that's what I said to Lewis too on the phone.
And every time we get like Everton,
that's the last game Sheffield United won at home, by the way.
Yeah, Everton literally were like, it was like we had no wingers, so I was like, okay, we're going to change the system. It's going to make sense. Didn't change the system. Played winger system with no wingers. Didn't work. And I was like, you know what? It's 1 loss. It's fine. Wolves happened. I was like, you know what? We were going to lose games. Losing 2 in a row is not bad. As long as we win the next one. And then it was another loss and another loss. And then we won. Then we lost again and then lost. And it was like, and no matter what he's trying to do, it was just loss after loss after loss. And then we get 1 win against a 10-man Burnley of Fulham. And I'm seeing people be like, oh, we're going to beat Leicester next time. And I was thinking, you lot are shameless, aren't you? You don't know what's going on right now. Because we're on track to get 58 points this season. We played half the season and we're on track to get 58 points.
Well, exactly.
It's like 86, 87 or something like that. At this stage, that's ridiculous. Like, that shouldn't, like, for Chelsea, that is just not, it's not good enough. And what makes it even worse, I was sat there and I remember when we did the Champions League draw, you all know Monster and so on. Monster was there like, give me Real Madrid, give me Barcelona, we'll beat all of them. I was there like, bro, give me the easiest team as possible. I just want to make it through because it will be a good confidence booster. Lo and behold, we get Atletico Madrid. And now I'm sat here thinking, we are going to sit there and cross an inshallah against Atletico Madrid. I don't want to see that game. I don't want to see it.
That's the thing. That's the thing. People keep telling me I'm negative. Like, if they ask me what the next result's going to be and I predict a loss or a draw, it's not negative. I'm being realistic. What I'm doing is I'm looking at the results we've had, and based on that, I'm forming a prediction that, looks likely to happen. And it's, I just don't see, like, people are telling me, yeah, but it's a freak season. Yeah, he could turn it around. He could turn it around. But what have you seen, especially within the last couple of months, that makes you think he will turn it around? And having belief in him is not a reason. That's having faith. That's something completely different. You can like him all you want, but what I ask those people is, what do you see in Lampard so far that makes you think that he will actually turn it around? That's my question.
That's a good question.
No one had an answer to that. That
Yeah,
is
because, look, Alex, I'll level with you, man. Like, I was like, look, I'm not Lampard in or out, but I want Frank to stay, but it's emotionally based. That's it. It's not logically or results based. It's emotionally based. So when people
but at the very least, I can respect it if you just admit to it. If you try and just spin BS reasons why Lampard has to stay, then I can't run with that. If you say I just want Lampard to do well, but I want to see Lampard succeed, I am a bit biased because of it. Is what it is. Yeah, like we said, we look at football from two different ways.
But at the same time, I'm not going to blindly tell people, you've got to get behind Frank, because we've not been anything since Leeds to show it. I think the reality is whatever we think's irrelevant, because I think the end game is near. I think the end game is near.
I think
at the very least the board have given up.
If he doesn't get sacked in the next 3 games, or stays to the end of the season, we'll wrap it up and then he'll go. Yeah.
I want him to stay till the end of the season and turn things around and just get a Europa League spot.
Exactly.
I don't. You know what? If we don't make Champions League, I don't even want Europa League.
Yes, this is what I said the other day.
Exactly. There's the Europa Conference League, and we don't really want that either.
I don't know.
Conference League, that would just be humiliating.
Wait, is that starting next year?
No,
whoever finishes in 9th or 10th place, 9th place.
But bro.
Can we just say
what was that?
I don't want to go.
Whoever finishes in 8th place, I think, is 8th place gets a spot in the Europa Conference League.
So, we could just shamelessly brag about it, if we win it.
Bro,
that trophy.
Hey, what we do with the Premier League B team and just play our development squad until the semis or some bullshit.
But they're probably doing a better shift, let's be honest.
Imagine
the first Europa Conference League winners.
Talk about some of the dreadful away days that you'd see on the way to the final there. And the final would probably be in some 3rd tier stadium in Croatia or some shit.
Gonna play FC Astana and what's that Cypriot
Astana, team? We face them in the semi-finals. They'd be like royalty in the Conference League.
What's that Cypriot team called?
Oh Jesus Christ! The Europa League's bad enough. Imagine we make it into that other thing. Probably be playing in some. We'll probably be playing in some futsal cage in Croatia or something.
FC and Nicosia.
You know what the worst part is? We probably would be, because the whole thing about the Conference League is that it's meant to be for the smaller countries that don't usually progress far in the Europa League or the Champions League, which is why there's only one English team that can be allowed in there, because they want to minimize the amount of top 5 leagues that could actually contribute in that league. So we would have some absolutely dreadful away days.
Chelsea have drawn Cardiff Met from Wales in their group.
That would be one of the close ones there. I take that lead. But guys, we gotta end the podcast here, because I've got to head off because I got another live in about 45 minutes. Guys, if you want to check the socials to the rest of these guys, I've already left it down in the description below. Vitmus, your channel's in the title as per usual. If you guys want to see more of Vitmus, click the link in the title and it'll send you straight to his channel. And until then, guys, if you guys have been listening on Spotify, if you guys have been watching on YouTube, I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Before I leave, as per usual, I do want to say, if you guys haven't checked out already, please check out the OneFootball app. The link is down in the description below. All your latest football news, like if you want to check out the last few minutes of Liverpool against Burnley, where our unbeaten record might actually be remaining intact. Always loved Burnley, never had a bad word against them. But if you want to check it out before any of us find out, check it out in the OneFootball app. And also check out their transfer indicators to be the first to know whenever there's any transfer rumours that are true or any transfer rumours that are BS. But I've been Carefree Lewis G. Big up to the rest of the panel for jumping on as well. Big up for David for jumping on as well, because I thought we were about to wrap up. Then we went on for another 50 minutes. Perfect timing, man. David, we're going to get you on as well. I really like hearing from you as well. Big up all the panel. Thanks for jumping on. And I'll see you lot in 45 minutes on my channel. Until then, take care and up the Chelsea.